Hello, dear foodie friends, and welcome to Kitchen Chat. This is your host, Margaret McSweeney, and we are going to set sail today with celebrity chef Dave White. You probably remember him from Below Deck Mediterranean. He was on that series, but he goes well beyond Below Deck. He is so accomplished in so many areas and has a new cookbook called Salted. So let's welcome celebrity chef Dave White. Welcome to Kitchen Chat.
Hey, Margaret, thanks for having me. Stoked to be here. Awesome.
Oh, and I understand you are literally on a yacht as we speak.
Yeah, so I actually went land-based after the show. I managed to get my O1 visa, which is basically, it's called Mastery of Productions. So it enables me to work land-based in America legally, so no risk of getting deported. So I've been cooking for lots of high-profile clients around the Miami area, New York, yeah, Palm Beach in Florida. But there's just everyone kind of tries to book you on the same times. So
Oh,
I've ended up being back on one of my friends, Troy, old captain of mine, asked if I'd come on board, and he's been super cool. So I'm on rotation. So I work 2 months on, and then I get 2 months off. And basically he's been letting me do my other gigs. So I did Captain Sandy's wedding on Saturday as well, which was awesome. So I'm also doing lots of other gigs. So I'm running around like a lunatic, just trying to hustling, trying to make a living out
oh.
here.
Well, that is exciting, and congratulations on your new book. And speaking of Captain Sandy, she has literally said that you are the best chef that they have had on the show. So, congratulations. And you have a very impressive culinary background. You have cooked in some of the finest kitchens around the world, including right with Gordon Ramsay and Ritz London.
So,
How did, if we could set the table, how did this journey begin for you? Why food?
to be honest, I asked myself why too. I'm not sure. I was a bit of a troublemaker. I diagnosed with like ADHD. I was as a young boy, I kind of, no matter what place I was in, I just couldn't sit still. I started washing dishes when I was 13 years of age in a very busy restaurant, and they offered me an apprenticeship a year later into cooking. So I became a kitchen assistant in a Rosette restaurant, and I do 5 days a week, split shifts, and then I do 1 day a week at college. So I did that for 3 years. I ended up getting my MVQ one and two in catering and hospitality, and then I got my level three in pastry. And then it was so funny because I joined this little young troublemaker, and I had all these chefs that I looked up to who I was working underneath. I ended up being like the senior sous chef in this restaurant 5 years later. And then I left there, and that's when I went and worked in Claridge's, Gordon Ramsay's restaurant. And then from there, I went on to the Ritz as a chef de partie. And then I was like, I've got to get out of here. I need a change. So I moved out of London when I was nearly 19 and moved to France, where I spent 10 years of my life. And yeah, learning some from great classic chefs, and learning really into the kind of the fine heart of classic cooking, which is French cuisine.
Absolutely. And if we could take a step back into the kitchens there in London and in Paris, and then we're going to jump into your cookbook and also the show. What are some key lessons that you learned from the chefs? I mean, what did you learn from Chef Gordon Ramsay?
So I never really like, the thing with obviously Ramsay, there's so many different restaurants. You very rarely, I touched base with him a few times, but you kind of learn from his head chef that he appoints to that kitchen. But mainly it would be timing, and learn to keep your mouth shut is the big one. Um, yeah, but obviously, and then ingredients, where they come from, the best way to cook them. For example, if you were to cook mushrooms, you need to learn to get all the moisture out before you can caramelize them. No one wants to eat a soggy mushroom. Just little things like this, things to get fish and meat at room temperature before you cook it to really break through that fat and help render the fat. Just the proper way to cook things, I think, is the best way to describe it. And once you get that opportunity, it's kind of life changing because it really gives you that creation level of to take you to the next step.
Exactly. And you had a big next step after the kitchen, I understand you went to the mountaintops, literally, and became a competitive skier and an Olympic skier.
So it wasn't. I was literally. I almost got into the Olympics, but I won a gold medal in freestyle skiing in 2014. But then I snapped both my ACLs
Oh,
competing at the time. Just after I won the medal, so I had to hit a high in my career. And I tried to come back from it, and then I competed in a free world tour. And that's when I did my other ACL. But I was so close to that happening. But the funny thing was, I'd be going into the kitchen 6 a.m. in a hotel, 5-star hotel, and then we'd serve lunch, and then I'd go skiing. I never skied before. I never even left the UK. My mum and dad didn't have any money. I never left my crazy little town, you know. So I had this opportunity all of a sudden to go skiing, and then yeah, 6 years later, it turned out I was pretty good at it. So yeah, I mean that's why you can put your heart to anything if you want it enough, and that's the important thing about keeping your mind at bay as well. You know, I was working in this crazy busy hotel, and then I'd go and release it all out on the slope skiing, and then I'd be straight back in for dinner service. And I
wow.
loved every
Oh,
moment.
that is great. So from the mountaintop to the ocean, how did the opportunity for below deck come about?
So once I was going through all these injuries, I kind of packed the skiing in, and I joined a yacht. So I did it for like 6, 7 years on the yachts. And then I was like, right, I've had enough. I saved up a lot of money. And then I opened up 2 restaurants in the southwest of France, a place called Biarritz and Hossegor. And then 3 years later, COVID hit, unfortunately. And because we were a small business, we shut down. And I had the opportunity to I left them in the last month of being open. I was like, guys, we got no money. I've got to go and make some money so we can pay the bills. And that's when I went on below deck.
Oh, and that sounds like it was such an experience. I cannot imagine having sea legs as a chef when you hit the rough seas and you're still having to cook. What is the biggest challenge of making dinners on the open seas?
Well, 9 times out of 10, to be honest, if you got a good captain, they're going to avoid any rough seas. But it does happen, and a lot of the time there won't be any guests on board.
Mm,
Normally, when you do the long crossings and the Atlantic crossings, you're just with the crew.
mm.
So it's never really a bit of an issue. But I have been in a situation. I was on a smaller yacht, like a 35 meter in Barcelona, and we just crossed from Barcelona to Ibiza, and we got hit with like 3 meter swell. And the deck heads fell down. I was cooking tuna, and every like one by one, the people at the table were being sick. So we got one person left, and then I was serving this one person tuna steak, and then I was sick in the bin. So yeah, it does happen, but only I've probably been yachting for nearly maybe 9, 10 years, with the breaks, of course, and it's only happened once that scenario, but it does happen.
Oh, oh my goodness. And the kitchens aren't like these big kitchens in the restaurants. I mean, you have confined space, and I think foodie friends, we might get a little tour of a yacht kitchen towards the end of
I,
this kitchen chat. But
but some of the galleys are
yes.
big. Depends on the. So
Mm.
I'm on a 60 meter now, which is I don't know, probably about 200 feet, I guess.
Oh,
And it's yeah, it's not the biggest of kitchens actually, but I've been on some boats where the galleys are huge, you know. Still not as big as an industrial kitchen, but they're a decent size. But the one I'm in right now is small. Not as small as one but deck though. That one was terrible. That
oh
one was real.
no.
It was really bad.
And in terms of the equipment, is it like a special equipment for a yacht in the kitchen, or do you have your regular commercial equipment?
It's all commercial, yes. So, for example, now I have a convection oven, so steam, dry heat, and then medium steam, dry heat. So, big oven, I can fit like 6 trays in there. And then I have like a home oven, like I guess like a Miele
Yes.
oven. I have one as well. And then I have like a six. Hopefully, I can show you. There's just lots going on out there at the moment. I think there's
Great.
something fixing my fridge at the moment. But we have like a walk-in fridge, a walk-in freezer, on the lower level, and then you go up. It's just more confined and a bit more
Right.
organized because it's just me in there as well, right? So if it's when it's you doing all the washing up and doing all the food for the crew and doing all the food for the guests, at the end of the day, the small confined space you have, the less you got to move around. So, but
Yes.
we got so, and even the dishwasher now, it's like a 20-minute cycle. So the dishwasher is incredible. So we have great
Amazing.
mix. Yeah, we got it all.
Oh, that sounds great. Well, I'd love for us to chat about your new book, Salted. I mean, that is a huge accomplishment to get a cookbook out there. What was the compelling reason why you wanted to do a cookbook? What are some of the featured dishes? What is the why behind this adventure?
I kind of wanted to. It was a proud moment for myself, and I also wanted to inspire other people. You know, like I never thought. I mean, my writing's terrible, my grammar's terrible. To think that I got a book out there is crazy. So I wanted to show people everything else that I've done leading up to where I am today. But I wanted to just show people like it's how easy it is to cook with a little bit of time and a little bit of knowledge. So I wanted it to be really quite simplistic, you know, that you could like make this dish in 30 minutes in a small galley or a small kitchen. And then so like when I've been at Everest, when I climb Mount Everest, there's some dishes I learned from some local Nepalese guys. When I went to ski Japan, you know, I learned from a sushi master how to do some incredible nigiri. And so it's just all on my travel. I went to Norway and skied the fjords in Norway. I went to this incredible salmon farm. Um, and I just wanted to just share these cool dishes and experiences with some of my really, really cool photos that I have from all the extreme sports that I did. I just put it all together. So all the stuff that I'd done in my past life, I literally just, it's almost like a biography. I just put it into the book and explaining some of the struggles I've had with mental health and
Mm.
some of the struggles I've had in love, in not love, in life. I just wanted to put it out there and just be vulnerable and be truthful. And it came out so well. I was so stoked. It came out really, really cool. And most of the photos I just took with my iPhone. So it was kind of cool. Yeah,
Oh,
really, really proud of myself for that one.
oh, that is wonderful. And I feel like you've put the recipe of your life into
No,
this cookbook
absolutely.
and
It really did
all
save
of
my
the
life. You know,
ingredients.
if I didn't have that opportunity to work in a kitchen at that young age, you know, I was surrounded by some pretty gnarly people. Who
Mm.
knows what way it could have gone, you know? And I was also making a lot of mistakes at that time in my life. So becoming a chef and having the opportunity to travel and meet like different people who I'm surrounded with now this day in my life is rubbed off on me and changed me as a person as well. And that's all to do with cooking. So I yeah, literally
Oh,
owe it
I
my
love that. I love that. And cooking can be an extreme sport
it is.
in many
It does.
ways.
It combats my demons a lot of the time. I'll tell you that much. Jumping out of an airplane or doing a busy service, it's not a far off feeling. But
Wow.
unfortunately, there's a come down at the end of it. You know, when you jump out, I've got like 500 plus jumps. When you jump out of a plane and you land, it's like this massive high. And then when you're driving back to normal life, it's always a
Mm.
bit of a low. It's the same when you're in a kitchen. You're plating up, you're doing what you love, you put your heart and soul into this dish, and all of a sudden it's just over. And it's like, oh, it's crazy. It's really hard to deal with.
And so how do you deal with it?
That's why I do both. That's why I cook
Okay.
and I do extreme sports. You know,
Oh.
I'm like doing this job now. I'm working 4 other jobs. You know, like I cooked for the crew here on Saturday, and then I went and did Captain Sandy's wedding, and then the week before I was into Miami cooking at the owner's suite. You know, I'm just keeping busy, just all over the place.
Oh, that's wonderful. And thank you for being such an advocate for mental health. And foodie friends, I don't know if you know this, but my daughter, Katie, has a new podcast called Check on Your Mates, bringing awareness to men's mental health issues. And we're excited that you might be a guest on her show, Chef Dave. So thank you so much. That I'll make sure we have a link
Super
to
important
that
to
as
be
well.
vulnerable and share feelings, especially as a man, when people think it's a weakness when it's, you know, it isn't. You know, people don't think that way. Need to look in the mirror because
Yes.
it's nothing but a strength.
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing your strength. So let's jump into this cookbook. My first question is you're talking about cooking on top of Mount Everest. How do you deal with altitude and cooking and making adjustments for all of that?
So my plan is next year to try and do the highest ever dinner party. So the idea would be because when I did it, the altitude it affects everyone. I think I got
Mm.
altitude sickness at like 4,500 meters, and then I had to go back down, recover, and then go back up. So it doesn't
Wow.
matter who you are, how strong you are, how fit, how much you've trained. It just affects people differently. It's called haste, so it's called high
Yes.
altitude sickness. And so basically, you just got to keep doing it. You got to acclimate. Can't remember the word now. Acclimatize. So you go up, you go
Yes.
down, you go up, down, up, down, up, down, and your body eventually thickens and it stops your
Mm.
brain swelling, basically. So I was only cooking at like 5,000 meters. The plan this time is to do a lot higher. So I don't know how I'm gonna pull up, but the idea was just to marinade, that pack, sous vide in a water bath, and try and do it on some open fire. But obviously, there's not much oxygen, so it's quite hard to light a
Right.
fire.
That's going to be a challenge.
So it's
Wow.
gonna be it's gonna be a challenge, but it's a dream, and
Oh,
I want to raise awareness for mental health in that and doing that little
yes.
journey as well. So, but yeah, that's what I mean. All these travels and adventures, and it enlightens you. It's incredible.
Oh, I love that. So let's look at one of the dishes you featured. Uh, so let's see, you've been all over the world. What was, I know you don't have favorites, but what was one of the most memorable dishes that you had prepared and that's included in this book?
It would probably be when I was I spent a lot of my time in the French Alps, and before I left France, me and my buddy climbed to like a 3,800 peak, and it got
Wow.
darker quicker than we expected. And we got his backpacks on, we camped up on the summit. So we pitched a tent in the dark in the middle of nowhere on this summit. And we were starving, so we brought coal. So I brought some coals, we made a little coal fire, and then I made this cheap chorizo fondue. So
Mm.
basically, just chop up the chorizo, all the fats come out of it, some garlic, some onion, and then add some Beaufort, which is a hard Savoyard cheese, full of flavor. Add the Beaufort, and then basically confit it down in the oil. So it's like a fondue, but not like a traditional one with wine. And then we just had this freezing cold piece of bread at the time. But we had this bread, we are just dipping it into that fondue, and that's a really great picture because it was if you can cook in that situation, I couldn't feel my hands. It was freezing. It was like 10 p.m. It was probably like minus 20
Oh,
degrees Celsius. It was freezing. And so we cooked that. We had an amazing meal, and then we went, and then we were toe to toe, snuggling up and camping, waiting for the sun to rise. And when the sun came up, we made a coffee, and it was just so beautiful. Like, and that's so it shows the fondue, and then it shows the tent in the morning
mm.
with the sunrise over the peak. That's probably the most memorable.
Oh, and I can just imagine the photo that went
Oh,
along
it's
with
unreal.
that.
I'll have to send you a book so you can have a look. It's honestly,
Oh, love
it's
that.
unreal, and it's just it took us probably 5 hours to get there, like non-stop climbing, and it's rewarding, and then to have a meal at the end of it, it probably took me like 15 minutes to do in those conditions. So on the
Amazing.
stove top, it could take you like 5 minutes.
Amazing. So, what is your taste of childhood? What dish is most memorable to you in childhood? And did you take any elements from that with any of your other recipes?
Fish and chips.
Fish and
Gotta be fish
chips.
and chips. Yeah, absolutely. It's quite hard to get a good one in America too.
Yeah.
So I really want to open a fish and chip shop here in Florida. To walk through like a
Ah,
little telephone box and just do fish and chips, nothing else. And then there's beer and wine in the fridge. You help yourself. Full, really small, simple business, but banging fish and chips, gluten-free option as well. But yeah, just the way a lot of people don't do it correctly. You don't need a thick batter. You need a nice thin beer batter. You got to make sure you put the fish in brine beforehand to season it, or just salt it to get rid of the moisture. So yeah, fish and chips. I love a good fish and
oh,
chips with tartar sauce. That's definitely my
I
thing. childhood
Love
dish.
that. Oh, I love that. And you mentioned salt, and the name of your cookbook is Salted. Is
Yeah.
there any special meaning why you named it Salted? And then what is your favorite salt, and what do you recommend salt wise for the home chefs?
So salted was because I spent a lot of my time at sea, uh,
Yes.
and I surf a lot. Um, and I went through the salt fields in a place called Sumbawa in Indonesia. And I surfed there, probably one of the scariest waves I've surfed. And I just remember coming back when I got pumped by the wave, walking through this salt field. I don't know, it's just a memory. I guess it just means it has quite a lot to do with my life. So I thought
Yes.
salted was kind of the right word to use. So
Oh,
that was it really. And then salt for me is Malden. I like Malden salt. Really thin, flaky salt. It comes from Cornwall in the UK. You can't get it in the States. It's
really?
really,
So,
really thin and it adds great texture to salads. It's great for seasoning meat, but it's great for texture because it's so thin and crispy. It's not too salty.
yes.
It's delicious, and they do a smoked one as well. So that for
Oh,
seasoning, like
wow.
if you weren't going to smoke a brisket and you just wanted to season a brisket with a smoked salt, it adds great flavor. Or like to comfy off garlic with some smoked salt. Yeah, it's really, really great salt. So it's probably like I don't know, $4 for kind of like I only know grams, like 300 grams. So it's probably
Uh,
more a little bit on the pricier side, but that's my go-to salt because you can use it in everything. Like people forget that you need a seasoned salad leaves, you know? They're pretty bland. Like a little bit of molten salt in there with a French vinaigrette is delicious.
I love that, and it's from Cornwall. And are you from Cornwall
Oh,
originally?
I'm not. I'm in between London and Brighton in a small town called
Oh.
Burness Hill. So yeah, I was like 40 minutes outside of London. But no one knows where that is on the planet. So I just say I'm from London. But
Oh,
we
but
do great fish and chips in Brighton. So
that is great. And now you've made me hungry for fish and chips. I hope you open
yeah.
that restaurant
I
soon
know. Yeah, I
in
know.
Florida.
That's the goal. I think I gotta
Absolutely.
get off these boats and yeah, the goal is to have my own restaurant in a few years. That's the plan. That's
That
definitely
is
the plan.
fantastic. Well, a couple of other quick questions before we have a peek at the kitchen or the galley. For those who do not have sea legs, what is the best remedy for seasickness?
So ginger is a great settlement for your stomach. So like a ginger and lemon tea.
Hmm.
I mean the best thing is just not to go out when it's rough. To be honest, just avoid it. Change the day. Go another day. Because it's a rough feeling, and you can take these tablets. I can't Dramadone, or I can't remember what it's
Oh,
called,
yeah,
but
something like
it's
that.
drowsy, and you just can't do anything. You're so lethargic. It's horrible to feel that. I'd rather be seasick than take them.
Exactly.
But the best way, a few of the crew on here now, they're a little bit worried because we're off to well, I'm off the boat then, but they're going to Turks and Caicos for a trip, and it's
Wow.
looking like it's going to be a little bit rough. And I'm like, guys, just leave a day later. Come on.
Oh, and what has been your favorite destination on sea?
Oh, I think Saint Lucia. I
Hmm.
saw there's in the Caribbean. Um, there's these little mountains called the Pitons, and just before I climbed Everest, I summited them. Not a tough climb, but I kind of ran it. I ran as fast as I could just for a bit of training, and it's really really beautiful in the middle of the Caribbean. But also like the Bahamas is so close to Florida, and just the water
Yes.
and the we call it One Tree Island. There's just these white sandy beaches with one tree on, with this
Oh,
beautiful clear like almost clear purple water.
wow.
It's beautiful. No, there's some incredible. There's so many incredible places out there. But I do miss Europe, like the Amalfi Coast, like being on the.
Mm.
You work so much on your yacht, so you don't get off much. But when you look back at the Amalfi Coast and those famous cliffs with those beautiful, different colored buildings, and yeah, it's hard to pick one place. The world's
Oh,
beautiful, so much to see. People need to get out there for sure.
oh, and I love that in Salted, your new cookbook, Foodie Friends. I'm going to leave a link for you as well. You can literally see and taste the world through celebrity chef Dave's new book with all of these great destinations, photographs. You'll feel like you're actually there exploring as well. So I always like to end the show with 3 tips for the home chef. So for the home chef who is watching or listening to this kitchen chat, what would be 3 tips that you'd like to share with them?
Oh, that's a good one. I think when you're cooking, it needs to be fun. So
Mhm.
I never write lists. Yeah, like ever. I write a menu, but I never write lists when I go shopping. So just
Ah,
walk through the shop, see what you like, see what's fresh, see what's organic. Go to a farmer's market, see what they brought in that morning, and then create something around that specific ingredient. I think that's a good little tip. It's like, and then a lot of things. I know a lot of people don't like using salt, but remember to season fish and meat. Treat fish and meat exactly the same. And season that before, and let it just sit out for an hour before you cook it. It's another good tip. What would be a good one for and bread? Here's a good one for bread.
mm,
Bread doesn't need to be complicated. Okay, just get yourself a good flour, just an all-purpose flour. Just get some quick yeast. You can just add it all together in one pot. The warm water, your yeast, just a tiny bit of sugar. You don't need much, and your salt, and then a little bit of fat, and you can just mix that all together. Work it for 5 minutes. More hydration than dry. So go like some people go probably like 45, 55. I'd go like 40, 60. So it's a little bit harder to work with, but once you've worked it out, you can really work with it. Just let it prove once, put it into your loaf tin, let it prove once, and then just bake it at a high heat. Don't overthink it, and it creates a great loaf. Like there's obviously better ways to make bread and more complicated, but just if you're at home, you want to make a little loaf of bread, it really isn't that difficult. And the recipe's in my book. It's super
oh,
simple.
fantastic. I'm going to have a link to your book and a great loaf, a great life. Thank
There
you
you
for
go.
sharing with us today the recipes. And foodie friends will get a peek into the kitchen soon. But I just wanted to thank you so much, Chef, for being on Kitchen Chat today.
My pleasure.
Look at that.
It does have everything. Fridges, incredible dishwasher, great dishwasher. But yeah, this is it. It's the galley.
Amazing. Look at that. And where is the oven? And it's an induction, is that right? You can't have
This is
gas.
the oven here. So that's a great
Beautiful.
little oven. Steams, dry heats. Yeah, it's a great machine. Brilliant. It's brilliant
Oh,
cooking for like 15 crew and 12 guests by yourself. So you basically don't have to boil any water. You just put it straight in a steamer tray. You can steam it. Great texture, clean and healthy. But
oh,
yeah,
this is fantastic. Well, Chef Dave, thank you so much for being on Kitchen Chat. I know our listeners and viewers really enjoyed hearing your life stories, the recipes, and getting a sneak peek at the galley
awesome.
on the yacht.
Thank you so much,
So.
Margaret. Have a lovely rest of the day, the evening, and yeah, let's get onto your daughter's podcast.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you, dear foodie friends, for joining me on this journey. Check out Chef Dave White's new cookbook, Salted. I'll have a link. And always remember to take a moment and savor the day.